Cashless society, war intensifies during global Epocalypse. In the fall of 2015, the world descended into an economic apocalypse that will transform the globe into a single cashless society. This bold prediction is based on trends in nations all over the earth, as shown in this article. As we enter 2016, we are only beginning to see this apocalypse form through the fog of war. The war I'm talking about is the world war waged furiously by central banks against the Great Recession as the governments they supposedly serve fiddled while their capital burned. The governments and banks of this world advanced rapidly towards forming cashless societies throughout 2015. The citizens of some countries are already embracing the move. In other countries, like the US, citizens fear the loss of autonomy that would come from giving governments and their designated central banks absolute monetary control. The apocalypse that I've been describing in this series will overcome that resistance during 2016 and 2017 as it wreaks economic havoc to such a degree that cash holdouts will be ready for whatever holds the greatest promise of saving them from their collapsed monetary systems, fallen banks, deflated stocks, and suffocating debt. One has only to think about how quickly and readily American citizens forfeited their constitutional civil liberties after 9/11 when George Bush and Congress decreed that search warrants were not necessary if the government branded you a terrorist. If this sounds like some wild conspiracy theory, consider the following. No less sterling standard of global economics than the economists predicted 30 years ago that by 2018, a global currency would rise like the phoenix out of the ashes of the world's fiat currencies. 30 years from now, Americans, Japanese, Europeans, and people in many other rich countries, and some relatively poor ones, will probably be paying for their shopping with the same currency. Prices will be quoted not in dollars, yen, or D-marks, but in, let's say, the phoenix. The phoenix will be favored by companies and shoppers because it will be more convenient than today's national currencies, which by then will seem a quaint cause of much disruption to economic life in the last 20th century. At the beginning of 1988, this appears an outlandish prediction. As we near the prescient date of 2018, the economist's prediction doesn't appear even slightly outlandish. If it still seems outlandish to you, continue listening. You'll see how the cashless movement gained huge momentum throughout the world in 2015 in the articles referenced below, where the voices and actions of numerous economists and governments press for the formation of a global cashless society. It may have been a long time coming, but it's certainly not hard for anyone to see now that the world's currencies are indeed crashing all around us as we near the coming of this seemingly messianic money that was predicted to resurrect from the ashes of the world's fallen currencies. The central banks are now clearly losing their battle against the Great Recession. Instead of saving the world, they have created a raging beast with many heads that are emerging all over the world. Commodity price crashes, junk bond crashes, currency crashes, global stock market crashes, hedge fund crashes, bank crashes, and national bankruptcies. All of these develop because of the greatest money creation and lowest interest rates in the history of the world. That last extravagant phrase, in the history of the world, is the kind of expression usually said as an exaggeration. But this time, brazen as it sounds, we all know is not an exaggeration at all. It's a brave new world that can look statement like that in the eye and not flinch because it knows it to be entirely accurate. Central banks have truly engaged in the greatest inflation of money supply ever known on a global scale, and the result is going to be the explosion of these many overinflated monetary systems, followed by the need to create something new as their replacement. The Epocalypse, as I call it, is not merely the second dip into the belly of the Great Depression, it is the death of money.